without us. So when you call, just know that Miss Millie is back in the house. 888 Car Clinic is the number for you to call, and we'd love for you to call in and say hello to Millie. Welcome her. Also, I want to take this opportunity to welcome Sean Myers, who is a friend of, an associate of our well, I don't know what to call Jonathan. He's our jack of all trades, really. Anyway, they're great friends, and we thought that we would show some hospitality to Sean. I'll tell you a little more about him and where he's going to college a little later in the program. Bobby Likis Car Clinic is brought to you in part by O'Reilly Auto Parts, designed to meet today's electrical demands for batteries. Superstart batteries are available exclusively at O'Reilly Auto Parts. You get dependable power and performance for your car, truck, motorcycle, lawnmower, boat, and more. Just visit O'Reilly Auto Parts today, and their professional parts people will help you find the right battery. Stop by O'Reilly Auto Parts. O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day. Or visit O'ReillyAuto.com. You can buy and have parts delivered to your door. Your call is coming up at 888-227-2546 when I come back. A 2013 Honda Accord came in the shop running rough, stalling, and a check engine light. The vehicle had originally been repaired by another shop. After a thorough diagnosis, we found the vehicle was generating a bad signal from the crankshaft position sensor. This seemed odd as it had just recently been replaced, but the scope doesn't lie. A bad waveform signal needs to be fixed. Our solution? A new crankshaft position sensor from Motorrad. A longtime leader for vehicle thermostats and caps, Motorrad now offers engine management products that are engineered to meet and or exceed OEM specifications. They're designed to perform under severe operating conditions and are resistant to extreme heat. We made the change, and that fixed the car. Motorrad engine management products are manufactured in Tier 1 OEM facilities with top quality qualifications. They undergo comprehensive 100% in-line and end-of-line testing to ensure uncompromising quality. Learn more about Motorrad engine management products and other Motorrad solutions at Motorrad.com. Berryman Products is committed to providing the products needed to help maintain your vehicle, like their 4-step professional air and fuel management maintenance kit. While tune-ups are now often scheduled at 100,000 miles, carbon constantly builds up on the valves, combustion chambers, and pistons. Fuel injectors can also clog. We call this the wet side. The dry side is the intake manifold runners and throttle body. No fuel passes here, but along with filtered air, the EGR system dumps inert exhaust gases into the intake and the PCV system. This results in gunk buildup that can cause hesitation, stalling, and poor overall performance. Berryman's 4-step professional air and fuel management maintenance kit cleans the fuel system and decarbonizes both the wet and dry side every 30 to 40,000 miles. It features mass airflow sensor cleaner, air intake and throttle body cleaner, an intake valve and combustion chamber cleaner, and a pourable liquid professional fuel system cleaner. Visit BerrymanProducts.com for information about the 4-step professional air and fuel management maintenance kit and other fantastic products.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Rosie Outfitters, I'm Tina. How can I help you?
I'd like to place an order.
Great. Which item?
The cotton roll neck sweater, large.
Okay. Periwinkle loaded or caramel?
The caramel, please.
The what?
I'd like it in caramel.
Oh, the caramel?
Yeah, that's what I said, Tina.
Actually, you said caramel when it's pronounced caramel.
Can't we just call it yellow?
No.
Everyone knows the best part of a Milky Way. They just don't know how to say it. After all, it's our caramel.
It's caramel.
Ugh, that makes a Milky Way great.
You start my morning, you stir my soul, you warm my heart, make me feel whole. Your aroma calls me, starts my morning, happy morning. Your name is Folgers Mountain Grow, now you're here. Your aroma helps me wake and the day is mine to take. The best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
Well, I want to welcome you to this edition of Bobby Likis Car Clinic every Saturday from 10 till noon for some 28 years, going on 29 now. That's a long time to host an automotive show. And, you know, a lot of changes over the years, as we all are so aware of the changes in automobiles. I'm sure that you folks, as consumers and car owners, as we, but you folks that are not in the business, really just can't possibly be aware of all the changes that have been created and updates and technology over the years. And I'll give you just one example. The computer that the OBD1, which was phased out in 1996, actually it was phased out earlier, but by law it was phased out for the OBD2. And the OBD2, which means onboard diagnostics second generation. And then, of course, that's been changed as well along the way. But just for you to know, the computer that landed us on the moon and brought us home was no comparison to the OBD1. I mean, it's like, if I think of computers, I think of the Commodore 64. Jonathan, John, have you ever heard of a Commodore 64? Are you familiar with that?
It sounds familiar.
See there, so it sounds familiar. Commodore 64 was one of the first computerized, units that we all worked with. And the bottom line, that computer, not the Commodore 64, but something in that era, took us to the moon and back, which is kind of scary to me when you think about what all computers can do today, even your handheld phone. But the OBD1 was by far superior, and the OBD2, you could throw rocks at the OBD1. And the fact is, you can, not you, but a professional using professional scan tools can plug into the OBD port. Now, folks, it's not what you think. When I say plug into the OBD port and pull a code, that's really not that simple. You have to have a very expensive laptop and tools with the software that you have to purchase from manufacturers in order to not only read the codes. Anybody can read the code, and I've said this many times. You can buy, an iPhone app or a $35 scanning tool, and you can read the code. Well, so what? So you look across the street and see a house on fire. Well, hey, the house is on fire. Well, yeah. So what are we going to do about it? Well, we call first responders, call the fire department, call 911, call somebody, and tell them, where the fire started. Well, wait a minute. We don't know where the fire started. We just know there's a fire. That's the difference between a code reader and a professional scan tool, because scan tool says the fire started in the third bedroom on the left-hand side, with your car, you have a code, help me. There's no such thing as a code help me, but let's just say there is. You got a code PO help me. Oh, and by the way, it's an airbag, and it's an airbag module. Really? So that's the differential between professional scan tools and and real scan tools. We'll take a call from our first caller up was Stan. And then we have Jeff in Pennsylvania. And folks, I'll invite you to call 888-227-2546. As I said, we have our illustrious screener back in the house. So we're glad to have Miss Millie. So say hello when you do. Stan, good morning. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Glad to have you join us.
Good morning. How are you doing today on Saturday?
I'm really, really terrific. Saturday's always a great day for me. And no matter what I do on Friday night, I'm a cheap date because every Saturday I'm right here live on this radio program. But that's okay, too. It's fun for me, and it's also educational. And we call the program infotainment. And we started that phrase almost 30 years ago, and now you see other networks that say infotainment, which means entertaining information, because information can be boring. But what can I do for you to bore you? Hopefully not.
You're not boring me. I got a question for you. On my '68 Ford Mustang, it's original engine transmission with the car, VIN numbers matched, no big deal, but it's a little 289. It's got regular regional distributor in it, and I got points in it, and I keep the battery unplugged when I'm not driving the car. I keep the system completely turned off.
Right.
But the points in it don't last hardly any time. I'm talking about a couple thousand miles, and it seems like the points are burned up.
Well, of course, that was the main reason, but that was one of the reasons that they went away from points condenser, because the points do complete the circuit, the 12-volt circuit that loads the coil with 12 volts of energy in the coil windings, and then when the points open,
that energy that's built up in the coil will jump out, some 25,000 volts. Now, having said that, in order to maintain point life, the condenser was there because when the points break and they open up, then there's a spark there. And so the contacts on the points, unlike, and we can compare this, Stan, to an iridium or a platinum spark plug, that bzzz is where the fire jumps between a spark plug and an electrode and the ground. That's why spark plugs used to erode, and the gap would get further and farther away, and cause misfire. And so they came out with platinum spark plugs. In fact, Bosch was responsible, as I remember, for having the first. And don't quote me on that, but that meant that the point of ignition spark plug would last a long time. And today they use iridium, which was I think the second most precious metal with regard to its heat properties. And they didn't use iridium for a long time because it takes 4,000 degrees to melt it, and as a result, it's hard to assemble that in an assembly line, and that's where laser welding came in. And that's a lot of information there. Maybe not of it exactly correct, but for demonstrative purposes, I want to share that with you. But getting back to why your car does that, number one, your battery. Number one, there's a ballast resistor built into the wiring harness of your Mustang.
Right.
And that, go ahead.
The primary wire that goes from the coil to the distributor.
That's correct. And the primary wire that goes to the coil. Yes, because the distributor, let's see, it would be, a distributor is not grounded, So that would be the primary wire that goes to the coil, goes to the points. Yes, that's correct,
I'm running Autolite, or I don't mean mention brand name, but
that's all right.
Double platinum spark plugs in it. Does that make a difference?
Absolutely not. Although platinum plugs require more voltage to jump the gap, but that's a nit, and it won't matter. And the platinum plugs are okay. So here's what I suggest. I have two things in mind, and so let me try to codify those.
Sure.
And it's hard for me to give a short answer because there's always more to a story. Number one, the fact that you disconnect your battery, do you use a battery tender first for your battery?
No.
Okay. Well, you should. You should.
Okay.
And I'll give a plug to Clarios, our sponsor. There's an Optima digital D400 digital battery tender that you should hook up to the car, and you should leave the battery hooked up to the automobile. You shouldn't take the battery loose and leave it hooked up to the car. There's no parasitic draw on your '68 Mustang except for the clock, and it'll if it still works, it'll hammer the little spring winder ever so often, but you can leave it a long time without having a battery draw. Today's cars draw a lot more voltage statically. With everything off, because there's constant draws and parasitic draw for an automobile. Getting back to your Mustang, number one, if the resistor wire that goes from the ignition to the coil is defective, then the voltage will be excessive, and that will shorten the life of the points. Okay, that's number one. Number two, that's what a condenser does. That's not what a condenser does. A condenser absorbs that extra voltage left over in the points when they break. In fact, you can take a condenser, and I've done this as a practical joke. You can take a condenser and charge it by hooking, grounding the body of the condenser and touching the top part with 12 volts and charge it and just set it down. And then we used to have friends that come along, or workmates, and they'd pick up the condenser, and it'd shock them because it would discharge. So the condenser will hold a charge and absorb that voltage. So a condenser should always be replaced with your points. That's number one. Number two, in the end game, because you disconnect the battery, when you fire the car and go drive it, the generator is really charging at a wide open throttle because the battery loses 25% of its charge a month just being disconnected. So what you've got is you've got a constant up and down of voltage, which that also could have an effect on the point life. You understand what I'm saying?
I get
All right, so
I appreciate it.
you're welcome. Hey, thanks for your call. And folks, there's that commercial break. I'm going to come back to Jeff in Pennsylvania and your call at 888 Car Clinic. Don't go away. Cooling system repairs, we've all needed them. But what happens when that local mechanic or your garage is miles away? Situations like this were made for K-Seal, a pore-in solution that helps stop cooling system leaks. Other sealers use sodium silicate, which can clog the system. K-Seal features ceramic technology designed to repair the leak without clogging. Tough times create the need to be prepared. Make K-Seal part of your emergency road kit. K-Seal is available nationwide at stores like Walmart. Check walmart.com for store hours and shipping options. As we kick off National Car Care Month in the midst of COVID-19, making sure your vehicle is road ready has never been more important. The Car Care Council remind you it's the perfect time for a thorough check of various vehicle maintenance items like brakes, batteries, tires, cooling system, filters, headlights, and the exhaust system. Visit carcare.org to find out how you can best keep your vehicle safe and dependable. It's National Car Care Month. Are you car care aware? Learn more at carcare.org. That's carcare.org. Folks, remember this name, autobatteries.com. Autobatteries.com, courtesy of Clarios, is a fantastic site that tells you, number one, how batteries work, battery technology, how to choose your battery in case you need a battery. You just don't go out and buy any battery for your automobile, especially with the high demands that today's cars have with backup start-stop technology, backup cameras, multi-center stacks that have all sorts of electronics. Everything starts at the battery, no pun intended. Autobatteries.com also shows you how to install, how to recycle, how to test batteries, where to get a test for free, jump starting, just a host of information that you should know when you need, hopefully you won't, but when you need a battery for your automobile. Just remember, autobatteries.com. It's a fantastic site with information that every car owner needs to know. You need to go there, and you need to see for yourself and learn what it takes so that when you go into a service shop, should you need a battery, you'll know the right questions to ask. Again, courtesy of Clarios, go to autobatteries.com. That's autobatteries.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
The airlines like to have sales. Summer getaway sales, holiday sales, winter sales. Truth is, at any moment, some airline somewhere is on sale with low fares to great destinations. Travelocity knows exactly what's going on, who's on sale, to where, and when, at over 700 airlines worldwide. We even have this nifty feature that lets you look at a calendar so that you can see exactly the days the great fares are available. Travelocity.com. Go virtually anywhere. AOL keyword, travel.
Hun, guess my temperature.
It's 2 a.m. Go to sleep.
Come on, one guess.
I'm 98.
Higher.
Higher, 99.
You're getting warmer. Wait, I'm getting warmer.
Cold symptoms keeping you from getting a good night's sleep? Get NyQuil. The nighttime sniffling, sneezing, coughing, aching, stuffy head, fever so you can sleep better to feel better medicine. Use as directed.
One more guess.
100?
Yes. Tell her what she's won, Bob.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And welcome back to this segment of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Again, I'd like to welcome a friend of Jonathan Sloan. Jonathan's been with us about 5 years and just does an outstanding job there in the control room along with John Irvin and Miss Millie, who is back in the house. So a friend of Jonathan's is here with us, Sean Myers, and he's going to school in Connecticut. I share that with you because he's going to actually New England Baptist College, but I share that with you because my Porsche just went to Connecticut. I did. I sold my Porsche as I said that I was going to, and luckily for me, there were two things that I tried to convey on Bring a Trailer was the condition of the car, which is unbelievable, which is as new for a 40-year-old car. It was as new for a new car, actually, and also I wanted to, which would convey to the bidders on BringATrailer.com a value so that I could be well paid for keeping the car so healthy for 35 years, which it exceeded my reserve, or else it wouldn't have sold. And then my second goal, and not necessarily in that order, was to find a home for the car. And Mike Brown in Connecticut bought that car in Woodbridge, Connecticut, and I just love it. He's a really neat guy. He came down Tuesday to stay and ended up Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, go back home. He stayed till Saturday, and so a great new home for my car. And so anyway, enough of that. We'll move on to Pennsylvania, where Jeff is waiting. Jeff, thank you for your patience. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Well, thank you. I have a question. I have a 2014 Chevy Sonic, and it had some factory work done to it under warranty.
Okay.
And they had to replace the turbo in it.
Right. Yeah.
Right after they replaced the turbo, and of course the factory warranty ran out, it was like 80 miles later, my catalytic converter came on, the light.
Right.
And I was told that when they changed that, they probably got oil down in there, maybe, or something like that clogged that up. I mean, of course, the garage is saying, well, it's just a coincidence. And I'm like, 80 miles, I thought, I don't know. I'm no mechanic. I quit changing my oil when I couldn't see the oil filter, so that's why I'm calling you.
Well, let me ask this question, Jeff. For your information, catalytic converters are covered 10 years or 80,000 miles. Does your car have
almost 100,000 on it?
Okay, all right. So, but I wanted everyone to know that because that's an emissions, and also I'd like for everyone to know that when you buy a new car, let's say from 90 to date, but specifically in the last 15 years, when you buy a new car, the manufacturer tunes that engine and controls the way that engine runs, both in air and fuel and timing and compression and all those things, so that it ensures that the cat lasts 10 years or 80,000 miles. So all cars are tuned, number one, for emissions. And then if they run well at the same time, that's a plus for us. That's why you can always, not always, not for every car, but that's why there are some manufacturers that make modifications to programs to cars, and to that end, even the manufacturers, some 50,000 miles down the road or 2 years, 3 years, will make changes to the software of cars like a computer update. So, and that's because they find that what the tune or the programs that used new change because the engine changes with age, and therefore the tune has to change with the engine, with carbon buildup and those sorts of things. But let me say this. There is little to no doubt in my mind that if your turbocharger failed because there was oil, it means that the seal, and it's lubricated by oil, or else it would quickly burn out at 125,000 RPM, then the oil from the turbocharger definitely had a detrimental effect and could have caused the issue with the catalytic converter. So that's true. In fact, have you already had the converter changed?
No, I have not. Somebody told me you may be able to put something in it that may slight chance burn it out and it may work again. I don't know.
Catalytic converters are funny animals. They use precious metals and they're cookers, so that when air and fuel is always being changed, the air-fuel ratio is always being changed. So everything that, all the exhaust that comes out of the engine has some fuel in it, or either too much fuel or too much air. And there's a stoichiometric ratio, which is 14.7 parts air to 1 part fuel. In other words, for every gallon of gasoline you burn, your engine needs 9,000 gallons of air. Okay. So having said that, your engine's always, the oxygen sensor pre-cat, between the engine and the converter, is telling the computer, you're too rich, and the computer says, oh, okay, I'll change the bandwidth on the longevity of the bandwidth on the electronic fuel injectors. Normally it's 3 milliseconds, whereas in blink of an eye, 200 milliseconds. So okay, so it's too rich. Maybe you stepped on the gas, a couple of times, and it pumped extra fuel in there, and it didn't burn it all, and so it's too rich. So what happened is the pre-cat O2 sensor tells the computer you're too rich, so the computer says, oh, let's lean it out. And it does, it overcompensates. And then it says, oh, you're too lean. So there's always this, it's called Monica, and that's a technical term back in the 70s. It just goes back and forth and back and forth. And they changed oxygen sensors over the years so that they could shorten the duration between too rich, too lean, too rich, too lean, and I won't go into that, but it's a very interesting point that they did. Having said all of this, all of the pre-cat oxygen sensors see a differential in an air-fuel mixture, and that differential means that there's possibility some fuel left, and the catalytic converter burns that fuel and anything else that comes out of the engine. And when it does, there's a post-cat oxygen sensor that says, okay, did you burn it all? And if it burns it all, there should be not too much oxygen and not too much fuel, or no fuel, no oxygen. It should be flatlined, like a flatlined dead person. That's what the voltage should be coming out of the cat. And that's why they have two oxygen sensors per catalytic converter. And if you got a V8, you got a V6, you can have four O2 sensors. Having said all of that, I know that's a bunch of information, but having said all of that, if the catalytic converter gets polluted or diluted or polluted is a good word, with oil, then that oil leaves deposits, as you know. It's like coffee that you leave burned over on a stove, and the last little bit of coffee leaves debris, and that debris can restrict the honeycomb makeup of the interior of the converter. Now, can you buy a product that will clean the converter? The answer is they don't make products that clean converters. They do make for your gas tank, and I recommend this, Berryman products. They make fantastic products, not specifically to repair a converter, because what damage is done can't be undone. However, having said that, you would be ill-advised to go buy a converter for the cost of a converter without trying some cleaner first. So let's use an injector cleaner from Berryman, and they make a B60, which is they make a B12 chem tool, which you add to the gas tank. But if I were going to use B12 chem tool from Berryman, I would double dose it. In other words, where it says use one can for 20 gallons, I'd put 2 cans, or I'd put 1 can for 10 gallons of gas, and then drive it around. And what that will do is it doesn't harm converters, which means that there's a possibility that there's some of that cleaning chemical that would get into the converter and help clean it out. And by all means, you can't hurt the converter, and your car run better anyway. So I guess that's the short answer I could have given you to start with. But there's more. There's always 2 sides to every story. You got it?
Right. What was the name of that stuff again? B12?
Yeah, Berryman B12. Berryman. Go to berrymanproducts.com. That's the easiest thing for you to do, Jeff. At berrymanproducts.com, B12, or you can go to O'Reilly Auto Parts, because they stock the Berryman products. And it is a great product, and I'd recommend you use it, and you could use it on a couple of tanks. The worst thing you could do is still have to buy a converter, but in the meantime, the car may run better, and it just may be enough of that cleaner gets through the engine that it has, especially if you double dose it, which I recommend. Now, Berryman may not recommend it, but I do. And here's one last thing, Jeff. I suggest you do and follow my instructions, but I suggest you wait until you're almost ready to change the oil and filter of the engine, because there could be some residue left over that would dilute the oil. Probably not, but I always like to give the engine a clean bill of health. After cleaning the top of the engine, what do? Well, you'd want to put new oil and filter in it. So double dose B12 over a period of maybe a week or 2 or 3 of driving. Do not put the double dose and go out on the highway and take a 300-mile trip and use it all. What you want to do is you want to use the double dosing of the Berryman product on short trips, so that your car gets hot, and then you park it and it cools down overnight. Because on the cool down is when the top layer of carbon is dissolved and melted, and then when you fire the car up in the morning, that's flushed through. You see where I'm going there? So that's how you maximize the use of the product. It doesn't cost a lot of money. It's not the money. It's what can you do to use the application that will give you the biggest bang for the buck, and that's the way you get the biggest bang for the buck. Do you understand my instructions?
Yes, I do.
Good. Well, let me know what comes out. It'll take you 3 weeks or 4 or a month, but you call me back and let me know how this worked out for you. I'd love it if I saved you the price of a catalytic converter, and then also that I have my own recipe for using their product that they know more about than I. Thank you, my friend. Take care in Pennsylvania.
Thank you.
All right.
Take care. Bye.
Yeah, well, hey, you know, if you buy paint, if you go to Sherwin-Williams, that's a good paint, right? You know, if you got 3 painters in your home, and I bring this up because Rick Romanelli is doing some work. I'm building a home office studio as we speak, and I have painters coming in next week, and the tile people were there this week, and it's been an ongoing project for, you know, some time now. It is not the paint that you put on the wall that makes the wall look good. It is the person that's applying the paint to the wall that makes sure that the paint gets on the wall and not on the floor and not where it shouldn't be. And I can tell you right now, something I could never do is hold a straight line on a paintbrush. I tried that, a little here, a little there, so I gave that up. Man's got to know his limits, and I know mine, and my time's out. I'll be back after this break. Spring has sprung, and summer's around the corner, which means road trips to the beach, the lake, Grandma's house, and other favorite vacation spots. Make sure your family's memories aren't made sitting on the side of the road. Do a little preventive maintenance now to avoid trouble ahead. Visit carcare.org to find out how you can best keep your vehicle safe, dependable, and on the road longer. And while you're there, order a free copy of the Car Care Guide for your glove box. That's carcare.org. Don't bust your knuckles, bust nuts with PB Blaster, the #1 selling penetrant for freeing up rusted parts. Now Blaster introduces their revolutionary Pro Straw with control flow technology. It's a better way to spray, featuring a new flip-up straw and a volume adjuster to control the flow from a wide spray to a precision stream to just a drop. More precision with less mess, and no one else has it. The Blaster Pro Straw. Look for it on cans of PB Blaster and Multi-Max synthetic lube. Always use Blaster products and work it like a pro.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Waking up can be a chore, but mornings knocking on my front door. Know just what I'll do. Put on a pot of Folgers brew. Mountain grown aroma hits the spot. Helps me give all that I've got. An opportunity to start out smiling and happy. The best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup.
I'm privileged to be involved with Capstone Adaptive Learning, formerly known as United Cerebral Palsy, for over 25 years. Since 1953, Capstone has provided quality care programs for persons with developmental disabilities like autism, cerebral palsy, Down syndrome, and intellectual disabilities. Dr. Sherry White with her team are dedicated to Capstone's clients, and 100% of your contributions stay local to serve those in this community. Go to capstoneadaptivelearning.org to see the difference Capstone makes.
Technology moves at the speed of innovation, and today, that's lightning fast. So when you get your hands on the latest tech, don't forget to do the right thing with your old devices. Recycle them. The Consumer Technology Association and its members are making recycling your old tech device as easy as purchasing new ones. Just go to greenergadgets.org, type in your zip code, and you'll instantly find the responsible recycling location closest to your home. You'll also find lots of tips to simplify your recycling, like asking the store where you buy your new TV if they'll haul away your old one. Television sets, video game consoles, smartphones, tablets, they're all recyclable. Don't let them clog up your local landfill. Just visit greenergadgets.org. You're sharp enough to get the latest tech tools into your home. Now be responsible enough to get your old devices to the recycler. That's greenergadgets.org.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And welcome back to this segment of Bobby Likis Car Clinic, brought to you by Berryman Products. you can count on Berryman, as you heard during that last talk that I had and discussion I had with a gentleman about his vehicle. You can count on Berryman to provide the products that you need to keep your vehicle running during these challenging times. And as I said earlier in the program, you can learn more about Berryman products where at berrymanproducts.com. Well, that's easy. And easy is good, folks. berrymanproducts.com. Great products and a great partner for Car Clinic. Let's go to New Mexico and talk with Scott. Scott, thank you for holding. You're a very patient man. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Scott, you mean Tim Scott, Bobby?
Tim Scott. Now I was wondering about that because, see, Millie put you up as Scott versus Tim. And I looked, and I made this comment before the last caller, Tim. I said, Scott, you know, Tim's going to be really upset if somebody's calling from, and we all laughed about that. John is smiling. John, did we not talk about that in between the show?
We did.
Yeah. So Scott, I'm so happy it's you, Tim, because otherwise Tim would really be upset somebody taking his place. See, does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Yeah, so good. Well, let me give the national average. And folks, this gentleman calls every week, and I'm really proud of that. Actually, Tim Scott, as we know now, is a driver and delivers cars for different dealerships to around, within a certain 100-mile radius or 200, whatever the distance is. So you're familiar with gas prices. The national gas price as of this week is $2.16.6. And that's the national average for regular fuel. The highest price is on the West Coast, as always, at $2.83. And then the West Coast, less California, is $2.56. And ironically, in all 9 areas of the United States regions, and the regions the East Coast, West Coast, New England, Central and Lower Atlantic, Midwest, Gulf Coast, Rocky Mountain, and West Coast. Those are the regions. The price of gas this week is lower than it was last week. The price of gas this week, same time last year, is lower. So having said that, at $2.16, tell me, you live in Alamogordo, New Mexico. What's the price around your neck of the woods?
Same as last week. Strange, $1.61.
How does that figure? We're at $2.16. well, let me look at my on the Gulf Coast. You know, usually it mirrors yours or closely. We're at $1.85. So you're at $1.61. You know, maybe Alamogordo Petroleum at large hears you on this Bobby Likis Car Clinic, and they're trying to push people to Alamogordo to buy gas.
As long as they don't bring the virus with them, they can come visit us. Yeah.
Fair enough. Well, you just never know. That is an invisible enemy we have for sure. But anyway, so before I let you go, any interesting trips this week?
I had a trip to Albuquerque, that's about 3.5 hours north. Delivered 2 brand new Toyotas. Their new cars are slowly coming in. We took a 2021 Prius and a 2021 Tacoma to 2 different customers who ordered online, and then they signed the paperwork and paid it full with a check. So it was a good day.
Yeah. So do you collect the money, or that's all pre-done, isn't it?
No, they actually wrote a check out like they were buying bread at a Walmart or something, and then signed the paperwork, and it's been all pre-approved from the dealer. So we just pick it up and bring it home.
Wow. Well, that's a very times are changing. I mean, can you imagine? Yeah, I can imagine. You know, me. I mean, I bought my 16-year-old daughter a car when she was 16, and that's another story I won't go into. But the day before she turned 16, I'd already bought her one 2 months or 3 months ahead of time, and the car that I bought, I finished a day before she turned 16, and it was a hot rod, and I didn't buy it for her. I bought it for me. And it's a true story. And I turned the corner, and it was raining, and I was driving very carefully. I was just road testing the car, and the back end came around. I said, "Wait a minute! This car's got positive traction. It's got a low gear. It's a hot rod. the first thing she'll do is she'll go round and round. So I called my friend at the local Nissan store, and I said, I want the lowest horsepower, two-door, standard transmission Nissan you have. And I paid $8,000 for a 1986, I think it was, Nissan. And had it delivered. I never even went to the dealership. They brought it over from Car City and delivered it. So that was my story about that. But that doesn't happen very often. Hey, thank you, Tim, so much. And thank Scott, too, when you see him, okay?
Okay.
Okay. Take care.
Indianapolis 500's tomorrow, too, so everybody watch.
Oh, yeah.
Strange time of year, but...
Thanks for reminding me. You know, and to that end, I read last week, or maybe it was 10 days ago, because we had Terry Sabiston on from Daytona, but there was someone who qualified 230, or not qualified, but ran 233 miles per hour on that track. Average 233. That's unbelievable. Yeah. Hey,
that's crazy, and nobody gets to watch. You get to watch it online or TV or wherever.
I don't know. This too will change. Hey, Tim, nice talking with you. Take care, man.
Everybody be good, be safe.
Yeah,
Bye-bye.
thank you. Very interesting, folks. Let's go to let's come back from New Mexico to Florida. Edward, thank you for holding. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Good morning, Edward.
How you doing, Bobby?
I'm great. How about you, sir? What can I do for you?
I've got a 2004 Mercury Grand Marquis. It's a gem. It's a cream puff. It's beautiful.
Okay.
But I put it in for 60,000-mile checkup. They changed the brake fluid, the transmission fluid, the radiator, and everything else. I had 2 leaky shocks.
Right.
So they replaced the shocks. Now I get out and it rides like a dump truck. You know, the old ads on TV with the Mercedes riding down a railroad track with the champagne glass on the dashboard, and you don't spill a drop.
Right.
Well, now I ride on a manhole that takes the fillings out of your teeth.
Well,
it rides like the chassis is strapped down to the frame. I have no spring.
Well,
it drives like a truck.
I bet you, if what you're saying is accurate, it's very possible that the shock that was installed is the wrong application, and it's either bottoming it out, which I doubt, or it's too short.
I'm not bottoming out. I'm on the frame. If I get on the front fender, I can't even bounce the car.
Well,
I'm solidly on the frame.
You take it back? Did you go back yet?
No, I called them up. I got to get an appointment.
Okay. Well, here's what you want to do. Here's what I would do if I were you. This is going to be good. Here's what I would do. Just let me give you something to arm you with, so that you'll have you'll have something in your hip. You'll have me in your hip pocket. Okay.
Okay.
I want you to go to a local O'Reilly Auto Parts store. And did they put front or rear shocks?
Well, they replaced all 4 of them.
Okay. Then I want you to go to an O'Reilly Auto Parts store.
Yeah.
And I want you to borrow a front and a rear shock for your car. Now, they may ask you, well, obviously they're not going to loan you a shock, so buy it, but tell them that you want to borrow that shock. You'll go ahead and pay for it, and then you'll bring it back, and you won't put a mark on it. You won't tear the box top or what have you. And just tell them Bobby Likis said they would do that. And buy a front and a rear shock. Doesn't matter what brand. Monroe is a well-known shock.
That's popular.
They're popular. Buy a Monroe front and rear shock for your Mercury, your 04 Grand Marquis, because that's a common car. It's a very common car. And put them in the back floor or put them in the back seat. And then go drive your car and have a technician, go take a technician for a ride and show him what your car is doing that you don't like. And then ask them if you still have doubts, ask them to pull one of the shocks off and open the box and compare the one on the car to the one that you just bought.
Yeah, they probably put in the wrong shocks.
Well, it's the only thing that comes to my mind, unless they put like a 50-50 shock, and shocks are usually 90-10, which means they're rebound and rejounce. In other words, you push down, they'll go down 90% or the resiliency, and then 10% up, and that way your car will have a cushion when it hits a pothole, but it can float back up without any much resistance. Otherwise,
when that takes the fillings out of your teeth.
Yeah. So you know what? I that seems like a lot of trouble to do, but because you're so unhappy with the vehicle, and because I want you to know that you have the right shocks on the car, then go buy a couple and just talk to the O'Reilly Auto Parts guy and say, hey, Bobby Likis said that you would do this. I'm going to pay for the shock, and I'm going to bring it back, and I want you to give me credit on my credit card for the shocks, so that you can have them for a comparison. And I don't think I've ever told anybody to do that on the air before, but by golly, if you're that dissatisfied with that automobile, and you know it, you've had the car since new, I presume, then by all means you need to know that you've got the right shock on the automobile. And maybe you don't have to.
Ford Lincoln, I assume they work on Mercury's,
Yeah. Well, you would assume, but you just never know. So anyway, that worked for you, Edward?
I'll give it a shot.
All right, my friend. Let me know what happens. Call me next.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Well, there you go, folks. As I said, I don't know that I've ever, but you talk about having arming yourself. And you know what, I'm here not against my industry, but I'm here against how my industry sometimes treats people, and also how some people treat my industry. And it's a two-way street, Bobby Likis Car Clinic is brought to you in part by Optima Batteries. I mentioned Optima Digital 400, the charger before, but the Optima battery features 99.99% pure lead. The Optima battery will last up to 3 times longer as a traditional flooded battery. Optima Batteries is the ultimate battery power source. You can learn more at optimabatteries.com, courtesy of Clarios. Let's go to Richard. Richard, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. I think you called last week and didn't have time to get you. Hey,
I
good morning.
appreciate you calling me.
You're welcome.
I got 5 cars, so I have to call you often. That's a real tough go. 6 cars that I have to try to keep up, so I got always need questions.
Okay.
Hey, on my Porsche 911, the 3-liter, I've always used 2050. Since I bought it, had it like 30 years, 2050 Valvoline. You can't find 2050 Valvoline. And my question, is it okay to use their off-brand at O'Reilly's? They got an off-brand of theirs, and they got 2050.
Well, here's what I recommend. Here's what I used in mine: 2050 castor oil. And so I would, and so I use that.
It
is not a synthetic oil. It's a conventional motor oil. Yes, that's right. So you can find 2050 castor oil, and that's what I would recommend. And I know that would work in the automobile and not cause any in the engine and not cause any problems, because I used it for 99,139 miles, and that's what my car had on it when I sold it last week.
Wonder why you can't find Valvoline or they don't have anything in O'Reilly except their cheap stuff.
Well, they
or their brand.
They have their blend. They don't make oil like Napa doesn't make oil. O'Reilly doesn't make oil. Like if you take your car in, Richard, if you go, let's say you got a Mercedes and you go in and you get Mercedes.
I understand.
Okay.
But it's their brand, O'Reilly brand.
Right.
Brand.
Yeah. But they don't make the oil. They don't make.
They don't, but they sell their brand.
Well, I understand that.
Somebody else makes it.
That's right.
So is that all right to use?
Yes, it's all right to use. I prefer castor oil 2050. That's what I use in my car, but it would be okay to use the O'Reilly brand 2050 castor oil. Just make sure that you look for the Starburst on the can. And see, I like to stay with a brand name, and a brand would be Castor Oil, a Mobil One, Shell. There are a lot of oils on the market.
I understand that. That's why I was using Valvoline. That's what
Yeah, I know. Well, let me say this, Richard, and because I'm out of time. We all cling to certain brands of oil. I used to think years and years ago that that when I was building racing engines and blowing every other week, but I said, well, if it's not Valvoline, it'll damage my engine. Well, that's not true. Any name brand oil, even the not the name brand, but the O'Reilly brand oil, that oil will not cause engine problems. There's just different additive packages for applications, and that's another conversation that we can get into. But so the short answer is yes, you can use 2050 O'Reilly brand oil. What I recommend, I'd recommend 2050 castor oil, because you can buy that as well at O'Reilly Auto Parts, to my knowledge, because we recently serviced my Porsche before I sold it. Anyway, that's that dreaded music, folks. That's the end of the first hour. The good news, another hour's coming up after the top of the hour break. So we have Katie from Louisiana. Folks, I'm Bobby Likis, your host. Likis, you'll love us. Stay tuned.
This is Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Bobby Likis Car Clinic is a copyrighted presentation of Car Clinic Productions Incorporated and may not be reproduced or rebroadcast without the express written approval of Car Clinic Productions Incorporated.
This car repair spotlight brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. This week we had an 09 Chrysler 300 towed into the shop with a loud, rough-running engine. We saw puffs of vapor coming out of the oil filler cap. Bad news for sure. After tearing down the engine, we found a valve seat had broken loose and destroyed a piston, cylinder head, and more. No doubt this engine was destroyed beyond reasonable repair. The car was in great shape otherwise, so the owner and our team agreed it was worth repairing. We called our O'Reilly Auto Parts professional and ordered a Power Torque reman engine with a 3-year limited warranty. Given the affordable cost of the O'Reilly Auto Parts Power Torque engine and the car's condition, it made sense for the owner to invest in a new engine. Great decision. The Power Torque Hemi ran as new, and the repair cost was affordable. And that's why our first call for parts is O'Reilly Auto Parts. O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
If you're familiar with the cultivated section of the newspaper, you probably understand this message quite well. You see, in the cultivated section, everything gets abbreviated. Consonants, vowels, prepositional phrases, the very building blocks of our language are thrown right out the window. And that makes it difficult when you're trying to sell your car. You've got a limited amount of space to work with, and by the time you abbreviate the description of your car down to a couple of fragmented sentences, it sounds less like a car and more like a Bluck sedan with sniffed like new condition lemals. No wonder more people are selling their cars through eBay Motors. They can post unlimited text and photo descriptions, and with a nationwide marketplace, they're likely to sell it for more. Plus, both parties can be covered by eBay's Vehicle Protection Program. Buyers are happy, sellers are happy, and no one's abbreviating. eBay Motors, a better way to sell your car.
Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Countdown to 3-minute mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Countdown to 1-minute mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Countdown to 30-second mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Countdown to 10-second mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. If you have a car question for Bobby, call now at 1-800-264-5454, toll free from anywhere in America. And now, here's your host, Bobby Likis.
And I want to welcome you to this hour of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. This is our second hour broadcast of the day. Every Saturday for some 29 years, from 10 till noon, we come to you, and I bring information that you just can't find anywhere else about your automobile and tires and fuel and oils and anything else that you want that's in that industry that you're curious about. And if you got a car with a lot of miles on it, there's always what's your limit? What's that choke threshold where, you spend X amount of money? And is it a wise decision to repair the car or buy the bigger bullet, and trade it off and go to then if you do you buy a used one or you buy a new one? There's so many decisions to make, and you don't think about those things until it comes time to think about them. And then, it hits you and it hits your family, and you say, well, gosh, this is not the time I want to buy a car, or not the time I want to spend $2,000 on my car. What do I do? And so I'm your guy. I'm Bobby Likis, and I'm here. Millie will take your call. Millie's back in the house at 888 Car Clinic. That's 888-227-2546. By the way, if you missed one of our broadcasts, you should subscribe to iTunes, Deezer, Podcast, Podchaser, Spreaker, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, just a plethora of formats where we can come to you and you can download and subscribe. Your calls when I return from this short commercial break. Electrical demands in today's vehicles include things like start-stop technology and backup cameras. Fantastic features, but they can put a strain on your battery. AGM or absorbent glass mat batteries are precision engineered to offer the ultimate combination of power, durability, and reliability. One advantage, where acid is free-flowing in a traditional flooded battery, it's completely absorbed in the glass mat separators of an AGM battery. So in the event of a crash, AGM batteries won't leak. Learn more AGM advantages from Clarios at autobatteries.com. That's autobatteries.com.
O'Reilly. When you need auto parts, O'ReillyAuto.com is just a few clicks away. We offer convenient options for you to get your parts quickly. Order online and pick up for free at your local O'Reilly Auto Parts store. We'll even bring it out curbside. Or you can have your parts delivered right to your door with free shipping on most orders over $35. Visit O'ReillyAuto.com.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
You've heard me talk about Motorrad's leading the way with automotive thermostats, fuel, oil, and coolant caps. Now, Motorrad's using their expertise in Tier 1 OEM facilities to deliver advanced engine management solutions. Products like camshaft and crankshaft sensors, ignition coils, mass airflow sensors, even variable valve timing solenoids. And Motorrad's aftermarket products are designed and manufactured to meet or exceed original equipment specifications. Learn more about Motorrad products and industry-leading application coverage at Motorrad.com.
Did you just look down at your phone? You did it again, didn't you? You're flying down the road in a 3-ton hunk of steel, and a text takes your eyes off the road for an average of 5 seconds. At 55 miles per hour, that's long enough to travel the length of a football field and cause some serious damage. Turn it off. Trust me, whatever it is, you'll live.
Learn more at StopTextsStopWrecks.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Another lending success story from LendingTree.com.
Car dealers like playing games. They play percentage points, they play markups, but I don't like playing with my money. So I got my auto loan through LendingTree.com. I filled out one simple form, a marketplace of banks and lenders competed over it, and I got 4 offers back within hours. After all, the car buying game is a lot easier to win when you're holding all the cards.
LendingTree.com. When banks compete, you win. For additional information and state license disclosures, please visit our website located at LendingTree.com.
Driving has a rhythm all its own. Don't wreck it with a text. Before you get behind the wheel, silence your phone. Or better yet, designate a texter. For more text-free driving tips, visit StopTextsStopWrecks.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
Okay, let's get started with this hour of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. And to that end, we're going to go to Louisiana, and we're going to talk with Katie. And Katie, I want to thank you so much for holding. You held through the last part of the first hour, so you've been there a while. Appreciate your patience. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Hi, Bobby. I listen to you a lot, so I've got a lot of questions. What's going on with my vehicle?
Right.
I went to church Sunday night. I didn't have no problems. It started up. I came all the way back home.
Okay.
I didn't start it till Wednesday, and when I got in, it would just go ching, yang, 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 nothing. No there was no gas, no fire, or nothing.
Right.
So anyway, I got my little nephew to come. He's a mechanic. I got him to look at it. He said, maybe your fuel filter's dirty. So he took the fuel filter off, and there was trash in the fuel filter.
Right.
Well, he put a brand new one, and he said, you're not getting any fire. But he took the plugs off, and the plugs were dry. I mean, dry like there were no gas going to the plug.
Right.
So anyway, he changed all of that, and it still was doing the same thing. He said, well, in Katie, the only thing I can see is your fuel filter in the pump, in the tank, is going out. So he changed that, and it's getting expensive. And it's still, the gas is coming to the front, but it's not going past those fuel filters. So how can he clean those fuel filters? Because I know he's going to take it all off today.
Well, I think he's done enough taking off and replacing. And Katie, number one, you don't clean fuel filters up front. There are no fuel filters, plural. So you don't, and I don't know. I have to really be careful here because what I explained to you, and you're going to talk to him, and he's going to look at you like, well, I got this. I got this. And the bottom line is, if he hasn't gotten it running so far, it sounds like to me that he's just not quite as sharp as he needs to be, and you may need to seek a professional.
Yeah,
I know.
Really.
I mean, so I don't want to come between you and your family, so I'm not. And I'm not going to throw.
No, I'm listening to you.
I'm not going to throw him.
It's getting expensive.
Yeah, that's right. He's doing is adding complexity to an already complex issue that maybe was you could have a bad fuel pump, you could have a bad ignition module, then you get no fire. Here's the bottom line. Let me just share this with you. If the engine has a good pistons and rings and compression,
it does.
And it's got good fire and fuel, it will run. Okay, so here's what I want you to do. Number one, if he continues to try to crank it, he just ruins wipes the oil off the cylinder walls because every time an engine turns over. And when I say turns over, you hit the key and turn to the crank mode, and you hear the starter go run, 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 run. Every time you hear the engine going run, 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 it's wiping the oil off the rings. No oil gets on the rings and the cylinders until after the engine has come to life and is running.
Right.
So you could take a perfectly good brand new engine with 1,000 miles on it and disconnect the coil and disconnect the fuel and spin the engine over, and the oil pump will still work and you have oil pressure, but you would damage the rings because.
Yeah, I'm listening to you.
So here's the bottom line. What you can do is what he could do to shortcut. If he doesn't know whether it's got fire or fuel, he could spray flammable cleaner into the mouth of the engine. And when I say the mouth of the engine, your mouth is where you breathe, well, the throttle body of your engine, of your Oldsmobile. He could spray in there. And then it wouldn't matter if it had fuel in the tank or if the tank was stopped up or the pump was bad because he's spraying fuel in the engine. And if he sprayed fuel, in other words, if you took a little, like a carburetor cleaner, and spray 4 little, into the mouth of the engine, and then count 10 to 15 seconds, and it'll evaporate, and then hit the starter, and if the engine goes, and of course, if they had a bad fuel pump, it would light off, but it would go dead because once it burned that spray, it would be gone. But at least you would know that it was a healthy engine and it had fire and no fuel. If you can make an engine jump to life, if you can make an engine jump to life by falsely spraying, by adding fuel to it, and I don't put gas because that's dangerous. It backfires, yada yada yada. But you can use hairspray if you have to. If you had to, you could use hairspray because hairspray will burn in an engine. So just for you to know, I share this with you because I feel your pain, and I'm just not sure that he, maybe he's the one that should be on the call with me, but
really.
Yeah, really. Does that help you?
Yes, sir, it does.
Okay.
I'm gonna pass that over to him today.
Okay. Just remember, the least he could do is spray a flammable liquid carburetor cleaner or some kind of cleaner into the mouth of the engine, or hairspray, if that's what it took. And if the engine went boom and then quit, you would know that the engine was okay with spark plugs and compression and fuel, but didn't have any fire.
Yeah.
Or, no, I'm sorry, it had fire, it didn't have any fuel.
Right.
Okay, all right. Okay, hey, thanks for your patience, and let me know next week.
Right.
Give me a shout next week. Let me know what happens, okay?
Okay, buddy.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. So I get a call from Conquito next week, from Louisiana. Hey, you talked to my aunt Katie last week, and you threw me under the bus. Hey, I'll tell you a story about Louisiana, Houma, if I have time a little later on. But let's go to Texas and talk to Doc. Doc, good morning. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Hey, Bobby, glad to talk to you. This is Doc in East Texas, and I drive a 2016 Avalon, Toyota Avalon, and
Great.
I have 70,000 miles on. It's a good
Great car. They're great cars.
What I'm wondering about, so I sit in my garage and turn the air conditioner on, and I'm sitting here listening to you just idling.
Right.
Is that hurting my vehicle?
No. Idling, I think the same thing, because this week has been so hot. It's 102 degrees, and I'm out, with my wife, and we're doing some, chores, and she had to run in the store, and I stayed in the parking lot there at Publix, and I let the air conditioner run for like 6 or 8 or 10 minutes. So the answer is no, it won't hurt. However, it does put a strain on any of the hoses and the cooling system. In other words, when you're running the air, you're preheating, because you got a condenser for the air conditioner in front of the radiator for the engine. So you're preheating the air that cools the radiator. But if the car is healthy, it won't hurt it. And to that end, Doc, how many times have you seen police cars idling for hours? For hours. They're nothing special. A police car is nothing. At one time, a police car, and there are some suspension and brakes and different kind of tires, and they're more for rigidity and stability and rough service than comfort. So the tires would definitely be different. But I can tell you, the radiator in a police car is the same radiator that you get in your Avalon. I mean, relatively speaking. So the answer is you're not going to hurt anything. And if it blows a hose because it reaches a underhood temperature, and I'll tell you, Doc, it's beyond me, as much as I know about cars, or profess to know, it's beyond me how 300 degrees under the hood of a car, how the hoses and vacuum hoses, and to that end, they don't stand up, because you take plastic intake manifolds, which I just had one water plastic Y to fail on my car. You take, and it failed at a seam. It's the second one that I've put on the car. It's not designed right. It should be made out of aluminum. And sooner or later, if there's enough of them that go bad, an aftermarket company like Dorman will come along and say, hey, we know that on a 5-liter Jag, the Y pipe under the intake manifold, that is the upper connection for the radiator, that splits. Let's make one out of aluminum and sell it to the aftermarket independent shops. And they will do. That's what they do. But in the meantime, you don't have to worry about it. Just as long as you keep the cooling system healthy and know that the fans are working, you should be fine. That answer your question?
Yeah, Bobby, thanks. I'll continue to sit in my garage and listen to your show.
Okay. Hey, thank you so much, Doc. Be safe.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Nice gentleman. Folks, Millie will take your calls at 888 Car Clinic. That's 888-227-2546. So I'm going to go to Randy is calling from Oregon, but I'm going to ask Randy to wait until I come back so that I don't have to shortchange his call. So, Randy, you will be first up after the commercial break. That'll give me time to share this quick story. So, years ago in the 70s, I and my partner ran a rear-engine B-gas dragster. And so we took that car to Houma, Louisiana. And so for all you folks in Lafayette, you listen up. So I go to Houma, Louisiana, and we qualify, and then we go out to dinner that night. We come back for the race the next day, and this Cajun walks over and said, "This your car, man?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "You better go home because you didn't brung enough." I said, what? And he had seen us run. You didn't brung enough. I said, what do you mean you didn't brung enough? Which means we weren't fast enough. He said, you better go home, put it in the trailer. Well, let me tell you what happened after that. But I got to wait till the break. So when he come back, this is a great story. Don't go away. Electrical demands in today's vehicles include things like start-stop technology and backup cameras. Fantastic features, but they can put a strain on your battery. AGM or absorbent glass mat batteries are up to the challenge. Precision engineered to offer the ultimate combination of power, durability, and reliability. What affects battery performance? Harsh climates, frequent stopping, and aggressive driving all affect battery performance. With its compressed cell design and glass mat separators, AGM batteries are built to excel in these types of conditions. Learn more AGM advantages from Clarios at autobatteries.com. That's autobatteries.com. Coolant leaks are never fun, but they can be especially challenging if you're far from home and repair shops are closed, like many are right now. It pays to be prepared. Keep an emergency road kit in your vehicle, and inside should be a number of items, including K-Seal. K-Seal is a pour-in solution that helps stop cooling system leaks. It features ceramic technology designed to repair the leak without clogging. K-Seal's available nationwide at parts stores like O'Reilly Auto Parts. Check O'ReillyAuto.com for store hours and shipping options. Berryman Products is committed to providing the products needed to help maintain your vehicle, like their 4-step professional air and fuel management maintenance kit. While tune-ups are now often scheduled at 100,000 miles, carbon constantly builds up on the valves, combustion chambers, and pistons. Fuel injectors can also clog. We call this the wet side. The dry side is the intake manifold runners and throttle body. No fuel passes here, but along with filtered air, the EGR system dumps inert exhaust gases into the intake and the PCV system. This results in gunk buildup that can cause hesitation, stalling, and poor overall performance. Berryman's 4-step professional air and fuel management maintenance kit cleans the fuel system and decarbonizes both the wet and dry side every 30 to 40,000 miles. It features mass airflow sensor cleaner, air intake and throttle body cleaner, an intake valve and combustion chamber cleaner, and a pourable liquid professional fuel system cleaner. Visit BerrymanProducts.com for information about the 4-step professional air and fuel management maintenance kit and other fantastic products.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Telephone tip.
From Geico Auto Insurance.
When calling Geico to switch your car insurance, you will not need acetaminophen, naproxen, indomethacin, ibuprofen, a cold compress, an on-call acupuncturist, or any other pain remedy. In 15 minutes, you could save 15% or more. If it were any more painless, you could do it in your sleep, which is theoretically possible since we offer complete 24-hour service. Call 1-800-947-AUTO, 1-800-947-AUTO. Geico Direct, the sensible alternative.
When you purchase the latest TV, tablet, or smartphone, don't forget to do the right thing with your old ones. Recycle them. The Consumer Technology Association and its members are making recycling your old devices as easy as buying new ones. Just go to greenergadgets.org, type in your zip code, and you'll instantly find the recycling location closest to your home. You'll also find recycling tips, like asking the store where you buy your new TV if they'll haul away your old one. Don't let your old tech tools clog your local landfill. Just visit greenergadgets.org.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And welcome back to this hour of Bobby Likis Car Clinic, this segment. So I'm in Houma, Louisiana, and with my partner, drag racing. And this gentleman walks over and he said, "Hey, man, is that your car?" I said, "Yeah." He said, you better put it back on the trailer and take it home." I said, "Why?" He said, "Because you didn't brung enough." And I said, that was funny, which means it's not fast enough. You didn't brung enough power. And so we made our pass in competition, and we beat our component. And he was in our same class, and he beat his component. So that meant there were 5 cars. Well, now there were 2, just the 2 of us. Well, during our pass, which was like 8.01 seconds, 8.10 seconds, 8.10 seconds. So anyway, we broke something. But we made the pass, and in drag cars, you break something every run. We come back, and we're over there working on the car. So this same guy comes and walks over, and I thought to myself, oh, he's going to come over and gloat now. He said, "Hey, man," he said, "you got a problem?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Do you need any help?" True story. No, but thanks. I mean, I don't know, that's really so cool. Do you need any help? So the bottom line was, we didn't brung enough because he put us on the trailer. He outran us, but he didn't want to win by default. He came over there and offered to help to fix our car so he could prove that he could outrun us. And I'll tell you what, hats off to all of the folks in Houma, Louisiana. It was cool. It was great. And not to get outrun, but to meet such a nice, straight-up guy. Remind me of the time that I went to Owego, New York, and we all know about that story. So let's go to Oregon. And Randy, thank you for holding. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Hi, Bobby. Yeah, thanks for taking the call here.
My pleasure.
So what I have a 95 Toyota Tacoma, and I have a replacement catalytic converter on it.
Okay.
You were speaking of catalytic converters earlier, and it made me want to call because I just did this to mine. Anyway, it's a replacement one I put on about 3 or 4 years ago, and the element in it seems to have came loose, and it was rattling.
Yeah.
You've ever seen that before.
Right.
And so I'm coming up for a smog check here in the next couple months. So I took this current catalytic converter off, and I tapped out the element and put it back on there as a straight pipe. Now I'm just curious, do you think it could pass smog, or is there anything I could do to help me pass smog?
Probably not, but it's an interesting scenario. It just depends. You know, on one of those days, it's where I mean, if they seriously tailpiped your car and their machine was calibrated and they didn't have 5 cars in line and it was your lucky day, you can do it. The worst thing you could do is fail it, and it doesn't cost you to fail. Then you go put a converter on it and come back.
Yep, that was my thought.
I mean, I'm not saying that's the legal thing to do, but I have issues with. I have actually issues with the state of Florida because we don't have any emissions laws, and that really bugs me because it's just what kind of a signal do you send to anybody? When I see cars running down the road, those worn out sleds, I call them, with no tail lights and no brake lights, and I just kind of feel like, well, gosh, we need somebody. What's wrong with the owner of that car that what is right with or wrong with the owner of a car not protecting his or her family? That's not right. But also, what if I'm on the same road with that car? And just for everyone that I am giving a philosophical opinion here. But folks, a driver's license is a privilege. It is not a right. And that there is one thing that we all have to think about. It's a privilege. And that means if you have the privilege of driving your car on the road with your driver's license, you should drive a car that it meets a safe standard. And it's a shame that we have to have laws that would force a person to do that. And that has to do with emissions too. And I can tell you about the governor of the state of Florida who abolished emissions. If I had the time, and I may do it a little later in the program. But Randy, nothing ventured, nothing gained. Make sure that the engine is up to operating temperature, really, really hot, and that will tell the computer to lean out the engine, and that'd be your best shot. And let's see.
Okay.
Turn on the air conditioner. That'll load the engine.
Okay.
I think I don't think it'll have an effect on it, but you could try it. Yeah, try it. Let me know. Let me know how it works for you.
Well, yeah, I just thought I was trying to get rid of the noise for starters, and then I thought, well, I'll go ahead and send it in and see if it passes.
Yeah,
so
let me know. Let me know if it does. I mean, might be your lucky day or not. Okay.
Okay. All right. Thanks a lot.
You're welcome. Yeah, I don't know that I would normally have agreed with bypassing emission control, but I will say this, that years ago, the wife of a gentleman running for governor went in and had her car, this is in Florida, had her car inspected and it failed emissions. And they told her, "Ma'am, we can't give you a sticker because your car failed." She said, "You don't understand. My husband's running for governor." And I can just imagine the conversation. And the station says, "Well, ma'am, we don't care who your husband running for. Your car fails emissions, so we can't pass it." She said, "Well, you'll be sorry. So when my husband becomes governor, he will abolish." And he did, and he did. He ran for governor, and he became governor, and he abolished emissions testing. So there you go. Anyway, I never did like that story, but I've told it a bunch of times. Miss Carol in New York is waiting, so let's invite Miss Carol to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Welcome back.
Oh my gosh! I didn't think I was next because I just got a phone call from my daughter. And
well, you want to put you on hold?
You listen on two telephones.
You want me to put you back on hold and take somebody else?
No. She hung up. she hung up because she's going on a vacation with the husband and the two kids and the dog.
At least you got your priorities.
Yeah. Well, I will tell you something. Gosh, talking to her, I got sort of discombobulated, but I got my thoughts together.
Okay.
And this is not what I called about, but it was interesting what you said about, did you say this? I don't know if I remember this correctly because I didn't write it down. Platinum plugs take more voltage in the gap? Is that what you said?
They do, and
so it just draws it. Is that how I guess it just draws more voltage?
Well,
I mean, the battery has to give up more voltage.
Well, not the battery, the ignition coil. So it's the coil. See, a battery only has 12 volts, but a coil will put out 125,000 volts because 12 volts, you couldn't jump a gap, even though it's just a 40, 50 thousandths gap. You couldn't jump a gap under the pressure of a inside an engine, the combustion chamber pressure. So you have to have a lot of voltage, and the drier. This is interesting, Carol. The drier the atmosphere, the harder it is for voltage to jump the gap. And here's what I mean by that. If you're standing in a pool of water and put your hand in a 110 volt plug, you're right. But you could in low humidity area, say 45 to 50%, with rubber sole shoes on, standing on carpet. You could put your hand in a wall socket and tingle, but it would not shock you. I know this because I did this because I didn't believe the electrician when I built my shop in 1975. And he says, it's all about the least path of resistance. I said all that to say this. The reason that you wouldn't get shocked is because your body's dry and there's not much continuity. And if you have an EKG, that's what they put those electrodes on your body, and those electrodes have that little paste so that they have better contact, so you get moist. Okay, well, think about it. Now, let's think about the inside of an engine. If you're running a certain amount of air and a certain amount of fuel, and you compress it, and then you like the cigarette lighter or the spark plug, then that cylinder will fire. But if there's no fuel in it, the spark plug can go bzz, 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 all it wants to, but there's no fire because there's no fuel. So how much is not enough fuel to cause a lean misfire? And that's where we had all sorts of problems on first early emission cars because we had carburetors, and you can never distribute equally fuel to each cylinder. So you had, by the time you leaned out the engine to where it would pass emissions, you were choking one of the cylinders, or it wasn't getting its fair share, that would misfire. And so that's why injection systems became commonplace, so that you could equally distribute fuel to every cylinder in exactly the same amount. Everybody gets their own share.
I still remember that shops were just carburetor shops.
Oh yeah.
The ether that they would spray into the throat of the carburetor.
Yeah.
It was
That's
such
true.
a touchy. Oh my goodness.
I know.
But this is why I really called. Your famous words that you said, I think it was last week or 2 weeks ago, keep the revs up above 1500. Well, you had me very conscious of that. Well, I was conscious of it anyway, but I didn't know that there was that line of demarcation. But I was paying real close attention to what gear I was in because I got 5 and 6s overdrive.
Right.
And I went out last night to mail something in the mail at the post office and to buy gasoline because I was really on empty, and I got 35.6 miles to the gallon.
As compared to what? As opposed to?
As compared to like 25, 26,
yeah. Because you used that trick. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I was doing it anyway because I knew that certain speeds, if I put it in fifth, then the revs would pop up just a little bit, a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. And what she's saying, folks, is there's a fuel cut that is automatic on all new cars. And that means that if the engine is turning beyond 1,500 RPM and your foot is at rest, meaning your foot is off of the throttle, there is no fuel going into the engine, which means that if you're going down the interstate at 70 and you let off the throttle to get off the interstate, the whole time you're coasting with the rear wheels pushing the motor above 1,500 with your foot on at rest, no fuel is going in the engine. And it's called a fuel cut, and it's for emissions. And and Miss Carol, let me tell you this. So Carl, and I forget his last name now, who is a NASCAR racer. When Ford came out with their Focus, it's 41 miles per gallon. He took one off the car lot and got 80 miles per gallon.
Oh my God!
Called hypermiling, and he was doing the very same thing because he knew he only went 25 miles an hour, and he was always using the gears and what have you. So, you know, if somebody were to tell you, folks, that if I were to tell you I could take your car and prove to you I could get a 30% increase in MPG by letting me drive your car, you better believe me, because I could do it. Doesn't mean that you could follow the traffic like Carol and I know. Anyway, it's really interesting. And Carol, got to go. Thank you so much for your call. Now you can call your daughter back. And folks, you can call me at 888 Car Clinic on the other side of the break. This Pro project is brought to you by Blaster and their new Pro Straw, featuring control flow technology. Folks, wheel alignment's an important part of vehicle maintenance. Proper alignment provides better handling and also extends tire life. But in some areas of the country, roads suffer from harsh winter climate, and salt damage is tough on steering linkages and suspension components, causing rust. Rust never sleeps, and it becomes evident when you try to make adjustments to tie rods or even caster and camber components. But there's a solution: PB Blaster Penetrant and its new Pro Straw, featuring control flow technology. When aligning the front end, be sure to apply Blaster using the convenient Pro Straw to tie rod adjusters and any fasteners that allow alignment changes. Blaster will make them easier to loosen and move. And using Blaster's new Pro Straw provides the ability to apply penetrant only where needed, ultimately making the job cleaner and more efficient. PB Blaster is available at home, auto, or hardware stores near you. Work it like a pro with Blaster products. For more information, go to blastercorp.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
More than 1 million wild animals are killed each year illegally. Poaching is a major threat to our country's wildlife. I'm Tom Barry. I'm an actor with a desire to preserve living space for wildlife. The Humane Society Wildlife Land Trust does just that. Works with private landowners to protect wildlife, to preserve natural habitats. To learn more or to work with the Humane Society Wildlife Land Trust, call 800-729-SAVE. That's 800-729-SAVE, or visit wildlifelandtrust.org. Thank you.
Did you know 26 million Americans have kidney disease and most don't know it?
The day I was diagnosed, I didn't know what to do. I called the National Kidney Foundation, and the young lady who answered stayed on the phone with me and walked me through step by step. She too was surviving kidney disease, and she showed me there could be life after kidney disease.
Visit the National Kidney Foundation at kidney.org. Now you know.
We're a land of cynics. We don't believe anything anymore. You know why? Because we've been told we've won $1 million, that it's new and improved, that it slices and dices, that our favorite singer is still alive, that we'll be prosecuted if we cut off the tags, and of course that everything is backed with a 100% money-back guarantee. So when we hear the words customer service, we don't believe it. Travelocity isn't surprised if you're a little skeptical when they say they have excellent customer service, and that there's actually a pleasant face behind this website, a living, breathing person with a supercharged computer full of answers. Someone who's willing to help when you get lost, and most of all, someone that will actually pick up the phone when you call with a question or a concern. Customer service is just another example of how Travelocity puts you in control of travel. Chances are you'll never have to use it, but it's good to know it'll be there if you need it. Travelocity.com. Go virtually anywhere.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And welcome back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Folks, our partners, Blaster, you hear me talk about PB Blaster and blastercorp.com, have just come up with a Blaster hand sanitizer and in a convenient pump spray, and it's great for on the go. So if you're out and about and you want to have something that's really easy for you, that make sure that you stay as COVID free as possible, then pick it up, pick some up, and take it in your car and have it around the house. Go to blastercorp.com, but it's really a neat. It's available at Walmart also. I'll just tell you that, and Napa Auto Parts, Ace Hardware, and it's Blaster, and it's a hand sanitizer. Let's go to Florida and take a call from Thomas. Thomas has a 2020 Toyota Tacoma. Thomas, welcome back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Hey, thank you. Well, here's the update. On the way back on I-75, coming from Georgia, with about 350 pounds of motorcycle on the back, the 2020 Tacoma TRD Sport 4-wheel drive did get right around 22.5 miles per gallon, which is actually pretty good.
Yeah.
Whenever you consider that it's going down the interstate, and of course you have the obligatory stop here and there, and it's got 300 pounds on its back. You know, that's not too bad at all, if you ask me. Now, however, I'm still not exactly in love with it. I'm probably gonna wind up listing it because it is a TRD Sport. It's not, I can only go so far with tires. I can only go so far with rims.
Right.
And if I do that, I'm going to create. By doing that, I'll create alignment issues because that will change the alignment. But in order for me to get it to do more of what I would like for it to be capable of by doing these things, then I have to change the shocks, which creates even more alignment issues. But the big problem with that is that it's still a TRD Sport. It's not a TRD Off-Road. It's not a TRD Pro. No matter what you do to it, that's what it's going to be. As far as the suspension and everything like that to make it into a more capable four-wheel drive vehicle.
Well, it sounds like to me that you've got a handle on what you've got, and it also, if I'm reading you correctly, you've sort of relegated to leave it alone and drive it for a little while longer. Is that what you're saying?
Pretty much until I can unload it, and then we'll go from there. Now, one other issue with the truck is that I was going somewhere yesterday. I wanted to adjust my mirror inside, and the mirror just came off my hand. Now, it looks like, to look at the injury, you would think that it was something like, I don't know, something like a rock or a good-sized rock or a BB gun that hit it or what have you. But the only problem with that is the injury is inside, and it's underneath the it's underneath that black applique that they put on the windshield where it's right by the camera.
Okay.
So there's no way it could be anything else other than a defect. And I took it in today to the Toyota dealership where I bought it, and I asked them about that for warranty, and I said, well, I don't know if your insurance covers it. And I told them fly out. I said, look, either way, it's getting fixed, but if you don't want to cover it, that's okay. This will be the last Toyota that once it's gone.
Well, Thomas, I hear what you're saying, and again, now, and not in defense of your dealer, but the windshield is covered by, and I don't know about all states, but certainly in Florida, if you have a crack in the windshield. Having said that, it's highly, Thomas, I tend to go with the dealer here. I'll tell you, I have never in all my years seen a defective windshield that broke off where the mirror was attached. But I have seen windshields that were broken where the mirror is attached because the technician tried to put it on upside down or tried to use a screwdriver to prise it off, and you can't do that. You could use heat to get a mirror off. If you're careful with a heat gun, you got to be really careful. But I think you just need to, with my opinion, chill out, call your insurance company, tell them the glass is broken, and let them send someone out to your location and repair it. And let me know what insurance company you have if they don't want to take care of that, and we'll talk about that next week on the air as well. And thanks so much for your call, man. Be careful. Let's go from Jeff is in South Carolina, and folks, still plenty of time for you to call in. I will go to Jeff in South Carolina, but first I want to share this with you. As you know from listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic, we are partnered with O'Reilly Auto Parts, and I love their message. In fact, John, let's roll the message from O'Reilly Auto Parts at this time.
As we navigate the COVID-19 crisis, O'Reilly Auto Parts is dedicated to serving you. We've been deemed an essential business, so our doors will stay open. We encourage you to buy online, then pick up curbside. Together, we're committed to getting through this.
Now, not only is that a great message from our partner O'Reilly Auto Parts, but you can go to O'ReillyAuto.com and order your parts, and they will deliver your parts up to $35, even free of charge. So check them out. Go to O'ReillyAuto.com from the comfort of your own house. Let's go to South Carolina. Jeff, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Thanks for holding.
Yes, sir. I'm going to make it quick because I know you don't have much time. I've got a 1999 Chevrolet Silverado pickup, four-wheel drive, V71, 350 engine. And I've only got 70,000 miles on it now, but for 20 years it's sat under the carport. We only drove it on vacation. I had a company vehicle.
Right.
It started acting like it's got a bad battery, a weak battery. Bad starter. Crank like vroom, 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 vroom. Don't want to start. But I can turn and you can quit killing the battery down a little bit. But then when I cut the switch off and turn it back on, it'll crank. I've had it in a mechanic shop, a certified General Motors service manager, in his shop 3 or 4 times. He's cleaned the throttle body, got fuel pump, got new plugs, wires on it. Recommend that. It's never been tuned up. He says there's nothing wrong with the fuel pump. I had the battery replaced because I thought it was going bad.
Well, let me ask this question, Jeff. At any given time when you go out to crank it, that it doesn't, it cranks, but it doesn't start, would you say the battery is 100% hot? Does it go, or does it, in other words, is a battery ever...
No, it's strong. It turns out it's strong, Bob.
Okay. If it turns out...
It's brand new battery
okay.
General Motors dealership.
So what you're saying is that at random, this vehicle, it always cranks, which means the starter goes, but at random, it refuses to light off, right, to start.
That's exactly right.
Well, here's what I would do. And then now to make it start, you have to turn it back off and back on, and if you fool with it, it finally will come to life. Is that correct?
Just turn it off and turn it back on. Let me tell you something else.
All right.
In real warm weather, if I drive it to work, park it, and get off 9.5 hours later, go out there and turn it on, it'll crank right up.
Right.
It'll hesitate maybe just a little bit, but it'll crank up. I don't have to.
All right, let me ask you this question. Then Jeff, let me ask this question. And so here we are in a situation where, and folks, this is important for you to know too, the dealer, the shop, whether it's a dealer or independent, cannot condemn a part, and therefore they've chosen to say we can't condemn the part, so we're not going to put a part in because they that's interesting. So he obviously is in his car. So Jeff, someone has to say, let's replace a part on this vehicle, even though it may not fix the problem, because from my nickel, I would replace a part, and I'm not saying throw parts at cars because I've always been against that. But in this case, somebody's got to make the decision. If you got a 99 Chevrolet and it has anywhere near the original fuel pump, or the pump's been in there 5 years, I would put a fuel pump on it. And if that didn't fix it, I wouldn't blame myself, and I wouldn't blame the shop. So if you ask me, what would you do, I would say, well, I don't know what's wrong with it. Just let me know when it dies. Well, yeah, well, what if it dies and you're in the middle of nowhere? So at this point in time, someone has to step up and take a gamble. And if I were your shop, I would say, if it were my car and I couldn't prove what was wrong with it, knowing the nature of a 99 Chevrolet GM, knowing the nature of that beast, I would put a fuel pump on it. That's my opinion. You got it?
I got it. 100%. Appreciate it.
All right, thank you. So go to Cliff in New Mexico. A short period of time left. Cliff, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic from New Mexico.
Hey, Bobby. Yeah, this is Cliff from Alamogordo, and I wanted to tell you a short story about racing.
Okay.
Now, Bobby, I wasn't always blind, so I had night blindness, but I was born with an eye disease called retinitis pigmentosa. That's a genetic disease my mother had and her family through Kentucky, because I was originally from the state of Kentucky. So my parents kind of felt sorry for me when I was a little boy, so when I had bad eyesight. So my dad, he bought a brand new car back in '66. It was a Ford Fairlane GT500 sport coupe.
All right.
Had that fastback. He ordered it out of Ohio. Well, he kind of drove it for a couple of years, and he started breaking in. Then he started to take it out and race it, and he would take me with him. I was about 3 years old.
Wow.
That's how I really got involved in cars.
Wow.
I didn't lose my eyesight till about 21, 22, and it's an emotional thing because I cry over automobiles, and I worked hard, Bobby, and you know that, and to graduate from college later age. And my mother said, why don't you take him to the races? Because my mother always knew he would go racing because he would pull the hubcaps off and put them in the back of the trunk so he wouldn't lose them. So he'd take me with him. And I never forgot sitting in the back seat of that Ford with safety belts in the back, and he ordered them with them at that time. And I sat in the back, and he asked me, he said, I want you, he had a Kentuckian accent, so he's kind of like an Andy Griffith kind of guy. He said, I want you to hang on now because we're going to take off real fast.
Right.
And I said, you're in the back seat. So I looked over to the right of me because I'm on the passenger side in the back, and we're leaving this guy totally from a quarter mile. And that's when I caught my eyes about an automobile and a V8.
Wow.
And, people don't realize how hard you have to work if you really want to do something in life, and how many times you have to keep building your skyscraper, and we're still not done yet, Bobby. And you were a big help in that, too, when I graduated from college. I used to listen to you all the time because you helped me get through school as well. And my parents did, too, and so many people I knew in Kentucky and Indiana did, because a lot of my uncles were racers back with Mopar and stuff. And so that's how it all started for me, is just the love of cars and the love of taillights on the back when taillights were unique in the days. And that Ford had a most unique taillight.
Yes.
And every time I see my dad leave at night to go to work,
Yeah.
He worked at a Whirlpool plant.
Right.
I see those taillights leave, and he'd be breaking them, and you could see them. And, that's how you fall in love with cars. And it takes years and years and years of knowing. I know people always ask, what does it take to get your head wrapped around a car? You got to do it at a very early age. You can't do it late because there's so much information that you're still learning today that you have to keep getting it figured out how to wrap it. And, and I'd be in that car, and, I fell in love with that car. It was one car I always remembered the most because that's where it all came from, was that. And a lot of people ask me, for a guy that's blind now, you've never forgotten any of it. I said, I don't, because that's where it all started from. And Bobby, you've been there too. That you were young and you were doing this as well, reading books and reading magazines about hot rods, and I did the same. And, draw cars and things. And that's what people need to understand is when you do this at a young age, it's a build-up in time, and you start loving it more and more because of designs and looks and running and how it sounds. And it's unique, Bobby, and you've
Cliff,
done that.
Cliff, I thank you so much for sharing that story with us. You always have great, and folks, this gentleman is a blind mechanic, and he's a whale of a guy. We'll have to get him back on at another time when we have more time. But Cliff, thank you for sharing that story. And I will tell you this, folks, when you have a car show locally, and you can do social distancing, but do take your young one to a car show. And I heard a stat that 50% of all 19-year-olds in the United States do not have a driver's license because they just don't need a car anymore. And for Car Guy, that hurts. And don't quote me on that figure, but do quote me on this. I'll be back next Saturday from 10 to noon Eastern Time. I'm Bobby Likis. Likis, you'll love us.
This is Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Bobby Likis Car Clinic is a copyrighted presentation of Car Clinic Productions Incorporated and may not be reproduced or rebroadcast without the express written approval of Car Clinic Productions Incorporated.
Insurance 101, courtesy of Grundy Insurance. Uninsured motorist liability and underinsured motorist liability are both important aspects of vehicle insurance as they can protect you against an at-fault driver who is not insured or doesn't have enough insurance. Important to note the definition of who's insured refers to people, not vehicles listed on a particular policy. So the uninsured or underinsured limits you select for your policy for your everyday cars will transfer over to you when driving your collector car. Find out more at Grundy.com. That's Grundy.com. Your vehicle a little sluggish, throwing off trouble codes? Take action with Berryman's B12 Chem Tool featuring HEST, or high-energy solvent technology. Using HEST with high-powered detergents, Berryman B12 Chem Tool provides a 1-2 punch to knock out carbon deposits. But don't take our word for it. According to Thomas, your products are so underrated. This stuff flat out works, and you can't beat the price. Thank you for making such a great product. Learn more about Berryman products and their HEST technology at BerrymanProducts.com. That's BerrymanProducts.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
P. Ricey Outfitters, I'm Tina. How can I help you?
I'd like to place an order.
Great. Which item?
The cotton roll neck sweater, large.
Okay. Periwinkle, Loden, or caramel?
The caramel, please.
The what?
I'd like it in caramel.
Oh, the caramel?
Yeah, that's what I said, Tina.
Actually, you said caramel when it's pronounced caramel.
Can't we just call it yellow?
No.
Everyone knows the best part of a Milky Way. They just don't know how to say it. After all, it's our caramel.
It's caramel.
Ugh, that makes a Milky Way great.
You start my morning, you stir in my soul, you warm my heart, make me feel whole. Your aroma calls me, it starts my morning, happy morning.